Last week, wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk requested a trade from the San Francisco 49ers after contract negotiations stalled out. And the Brandon Aiyuk contract negotiation situation is very similar to the Paul George situation with the Los Angeles Clippers. When Paul George received his first offer, it was 60 mil over 3 years plus his player option. He then responded to give me 150 over three. The Clippers waited a decent amount of time and they came back and said, "Hey, Paul, we'll give you 150 over three like Kawhi." But since there was a large amount of time between that, Paul George went on and said, "Give me 4 years on with the max contract." The Clippers remained steady on their original offer of 150 over three over the next couple of weeks, making Paul George decide to go elsewhere and signing with Philly, 4 years max contract. Now you look at the Brandon Aiyuk situation. In April, that's when negotiations opened up. Aiyuk was seeking between $26 to $28 million per year since Devontae Smith just signed a $75 million contract over 3 years. 49ers obviously offered him something a little bit less than that $26 million since he did not sign with them at the time. A few weeks went by, and the 49ers came back around and said, "Aiyuk, we'll give you 27 like you originally requested." But since some time went by, players like Jalen Waddle and Amon-Ra St. Brown signed, making Aiyuk to ask for about $30 million per year. A few more weeks went by after that. 49ers stayed steady at $27 million per year, making Aiyuk then say, "You know what? I'm going to request a trade. I want to go elsewhere." And it is common practice for the 49ers to say, "We're not going to sign our star players to these huge contracts until later in the offseason." They signed Deebo Samuel in August 2 years ago to his extension. And last year, they waited until September to sign Nick Bosa to his huge contract extension. But with that said, it is a very delicate and much different situation with Aiyuk, since Aiyuk did demand a trade, unlike those two players. On top of that, he's actually mentioned a few teams he'd be interested in joining, like the Commanders and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you're the 49ers, I think you have to go in there and sign him right now, today, as soon as possible. And you can't wait until August or September to sign him. Because yes, he does have that 5th year that he's obligated to play under, but I do think it might reach a tipping point where if they don't sign him until middle of August, end of August, September, he's really going to be adamant on wanting to be traded and going elsewhere, forcing the 49ers' hand to potentially move him to another team, whether that's Washington, Pittsburgh, or somewhere else. If you were to move off of him and trade him, you're not going to get any compensation back that will impact your roster currently. Anything you might receive for Brandon Aiyuk will be a draft pick. It's going to be a nice one, a first-round draft pick in 2025. And who knows who that might turn into, but it won't have an instant impact on you this year. And I think the main issue of this whole situation is the 49ers don't view Aiyuk as a $30 million per year wide receiver. They see him more of a $25 million wide receiver because they view him as a top 15 wide receiver in the league rather than a top 5 wide receiver. And I agree. I don't think Aiyuk stacks up with Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, nor do I think he's the best wide receiver on this team or even a top 3 player on the offense. I think he's behind Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Brock Purdy in terms of importance to their role and to the offense. But with that said, I do think you still pay him the $30 million per year because first, what's the difference between $1, $2, or $3 million? If you're paying him 25 or 27 or $30 million, that's at most a $5 million difference. And that's not a huge difference in terms of you're going to be able to go out there and sign another star player with that kind of cash. But on top of that, it's where are the 49ers right now? They're in a championship contending window. They have Brock Purdy on a rookie contract for the next 2 years, and they have their whole core together all in their prime currently. And I think you need to go out there and maximize your talent on your team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Try and keep your team over the top and go out there and try and win a Super Bowl for the first time in a number of years. And Brandon Aiyuk will help you do that. Although he might not be a top 5 wide receiver in the league, he's still at worst a top 15, top 17 wide receiver in the NFL. And if you can bring in and keep one of those talented players like that, a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL, that's just going to maximize your chances that much more. And one more thing, do I think Brandon Aiyuk is a top 3 skill player on this team? No, I've been behind Kittle and Deebo and CMC currently, but does that mean he's tapped out? No, not by any means. He's continually grown as a player year in and year out. His rookie year, he has 700 yards. His second season, 800 yards. His third year, 1,000 yards. And last season, 1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns. He put on a show and led the team in receiving yards and ranked 7th among all wide receivers in receiving yards. So although he might not be a top tier wide receiver right now, he definitely can be. He has a good track record of continually improving, and he's entering his prime. And on top of that, he brings stability to the wide receiver room. Deebo Samuel over the past couple of years has dealt with his fair share of injuries. Yes, he only missed 2 games last year, but he played a few more games banged up. With Aiyuk, he has a great track record of health and being on the field. He's only missed 1 game in the past 3 seasons with the 49ers. At the end of the day, Aiyuk may not be a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. He might not be there yet, and he might not ever be a top 5 wide receiver. but he's entering his prime. He's at minimum a top 15 wide receiver, and the 49ers are in a win now situation where this is their best chance of contending because all their top players are in their prime right now and under contract. So what you need to do is you need to sign Aiyuk to his extension, get that over with, and allow for the team to have their mind set on one thing, and that's winning every game and winning the Super Bowl. So yes, he may not be worth $30 million a year on the field, but he's worth $30 million per year to this roster. You guys let me know your thoughts. As always, I appreciate you listening, and please subscribe. Thank you.